to Your Hometown Solutions, where we cover everything real estate related from foreclosures to Feng Shui. You just heard my co-host, Jonathan Lack. Jonathan Lack, hello and welcome back to the studios.
Thank you for having me back, Jean. Looking forward to a good show today.
Oh, wow. We've got a lot to cover, and we've got a really exciting guest with us. But again, let's talk about the three hats that you wear to give people an idea where we're coming from here on the show. We try to highlight anything that has to do with real estate, the community involvement. So, Jonathan, talk about your three businesses.
Well, I am a transactional real estate attorney with my firm of Lack & Lack Chartered, located in Indy, Atlantic, Florida, but doing business throughout the state of Florida. I also have Waterview Title Services, which is a full-service title insurance agency. And finally, Waterview Realty Services, which is a full-service real estate brokerage, again, operating throughout all of Florida, but primarily focusing on East Central Florida, Brevard County, and also South Florida, the Broward and Palm Beach County areas.
Go ahead and give out your information on how they can contact you, or a website, and let them know what's going on.
The two main ways to reach me, the law office website is lacklaw.com. That's LACKLAW.com. And then we also have waterviewre.com, RE being for real estate. So waterviewre.com would get to Waterview Realty Services, our full-service real estate brokerage.
A lot of people don't realize, and we have an exciting guest, and I don't want to take up a lot of time about other things, but we want to make sure that our listening audience knows all the various things that real estate offices do for them, and real estate brokers, and how involved they are in the community. So there's a lot of things that a real estate attorney can do, and we won't get into all those details, but give out the Lack & Lack chartered website, because there are opportunities there that maybe they just need a real estate attorney to go over maybe contracts, or if they're selling their home to a friend or a family member and things like that.
Sure. Well, again, you can reach me at the website is lacklaw.com, and you can reach me by phone at area code 321-953-5115. What a real estate attorney does that's different than a real estate agent or realtor is provide representation to the client in the purchase or sale of their home. The real estate agent helps bring a buyer and seller together. And of course, they do a lot of work in that regard, and they hold the hand of the buyer or seller and make sure the transactions go smoothly, but they're still limited in their service to bringing a buyer and seller together, and again, helping coordinate inspections and things of that nature. As an attorney, I will represent one or the other party and make sure that their interests are being served. The goal is to have a smooth and successful transaction. So if I have a buyer who's looking to buy a home, my job is not to make it difficult for them to buy it, but rather to make the process go smoothly. However, I also want to make sure that they are getting the benefit of the bargain when they've entered into the contract. So as an attorney, we provide a slightly different level or a different type of service than as a real estate agent.
Well, thank you, Jonathan, and we have a guest with us today that has a wide variety of background in the media and doing some exciting things for the community. And I'd like to welcome on board with us today Ralph Perrone, Jr. Hello, Ralph.
And thank you very much for having me today. Appreciate the invite.
And tell us a little bit about your involvement in real estate. How did you get started in real estate?
Well, in 1985 is when my father really kind of got involved himself. He had sold his landscaping company at that time and started a retirement early on, about 28 years of age. And funny enough, Mom did not think that was too much fun for her, so she asked him to get back to work and find something to do, and he started getting into real estate. So at a young age, I was only about 7, and I was going on to all these job sites, and I was being involved in a lot of acquisitions, and we accumulated around 180 residences in South Florida. So I was kind of raised in this, as my dad was a real estate investor. And going through college, I decided it was pretty interesting, and I decided to create my own business program by getting a business administration degree from the University of Central Florida, a marketing degree, as well as finance, because I felt that real estate was always going to be my calling. And so as soon as I graduated from the University of Central Florida, I obtained my real estate license and been doing that for about 20 years.
We're both, Jonathan and I are both from South Florida. And I read your bio. Didn't you go to, was it North Miami High?
Southwest Miami Senior High.
Southwest. And you went to?
I was South Broward.
There you go. So we were all rivals. I went to Stranahan in Fort Lauderdale. So there you go. We're all South Floridians that found our way up here, which is paradise. You're a bit of a celebrity, Ralph. I know you don't like to admit it, but you are. You've been involved with the House Hunters program, and we like to tell people here on our show that we have a lot of involvement with the HGTV shows because we try to bring to light various things that are happening in real estate. We've had people on the show that have to do with finance, remodeling, roofers. We've had stagers, anything that you sometimes see on the HGTV shows. But House Hunters is one of those popular shows, but you've also been involved in a couple others. Was House Hunters your first one, or was your show the first one that you had on air on HGTV? And what was the name of your show?
Well, we were very fortunate, and how this all kind of came about with the introduction of House Hunters and Pie Town Productions out of Southern California was that my business partner, she was one of my realtors, and she was working for me out of one of my South Florida offices. She actually went through the whole process, and she won the TV show that Donald Trump has called The Apprentice. She was the third season and the first female winner, and upon winning, we had the opportunity to do some really cool things. For example, one of them is we renovated the Mar-a-Lago mansion down in South Florida, and we were the most expensive listing in the world at the time. We had listed that property at $120 million. So when you think of luxury real estate, my firm, we have represented the highest of all luxury in the United States at $120 million.
What do you think it's going for now?
Well, it's off the market with his presidency, of course. It's not something he had sold. It was more one of those things to break the U.S. record and be the first person to go over $100 million in a mansion of such. And where else better to do it in South Florida and Palm Beach?
Right. So that House Hunters is how you got acquainted with them. But then you've been, do they call it a guest or realtor on the show? You're kind of the walk-through person of finding properties for House Hunters. I know they have their regulars, but when they do shows in Florida, they've asked you to be the network representative.
It's a very unique thing. We had actually, after she won the TV show The Apprentice, they had our year was over with that contract. We had done a lot of really cool things with the Trump organization, from being a speaker at the National Association of Realtor Convention for Lowe's. We had private jets awarded to us so that we could fly investors from South Florida to Orlando, and we were doing condo conversions where we converted over $300 million into $1.1 billion for the Trump organization and a few others down in South Florida. This led us into massive opportunities, and that's how we actually got to be affiliated with the House Hunters and the HGTV company. We had basically been picked up for a 3-year contract with My House is Worth What. My House is Worth What was the name of the TV show, and we had it, like I said, for 3 years. And during that time frame, I was a star, if you would call it that, on House Hunters. I did 5 House Hunters shows, and we did 36 My House is Worth What's.
Wow.
Very good.
And during that time frame, we were, Fox News analysts. We were on MSNBC. People would come to us because of our massive network that we have amassed.
Exactly.
We had basically started answering questions for real estate, across the country.
Exactly. It's that media exposure. As we've had conversations in the past, once you become known as the credible source in your field, everyone comes calling. They want your input on whatever they're talking about.
Absolutely.
So tell us a little bit about how, I don't know, some of this is old, but I think our audience is always interested. On My House is Worth What? Was a half an hour show, and you basically went in with like a CMA or an appraiser, or how did you figure out what their house was worth?
The My House is Worth What show was more of a premise on the listing side, where the House Hunters is more premised on the buying side of the transaction. So we would basically go on the My House is Worth What. The curiosity was, do we stay or do we go? And there's a couple of shows that have almost similar premises now out there. And what we'd basically do is we would go in as the star. We would basically do a CMA. We would come in there and do an analysis and help them make the decision whether it was time to move out of the home, upsize, downsize, or we're just basically give them the facts. It was a curiosity that they needed to know the value, and without knowing the value, they could not make the determination of the next step in their life.
Now, how did you have your show set up? Because we're going to talk about House Hunters and some of the other HGTV shows I'm sure run along the same premise. They are kind of set up as a reality show, but in reality, on the reality show, it's more rehearsed, or it's already set information that you kind of backtrack and completely recreate it as if it's happening live, when it's in reality might have happened several months before. Or give us a premise on how maybe House Hunters, and for those of you that don't understand House Hunters or perhaps haven't seen it, what is the premise behind House Hunters? It's a kind of a choice of 3 properties and so forth.
Yeah, House Hunters specifically is a 5-segment TV show, and the first segment is broken into the problem. It's basically, we have an issue, we have a large family, combined family, we're moving, whatever the storyline is, that's going to be your premise. Then we have the next 3 homes that we'll identify to be shown to the customer, the client, the buyer. We go through those series of those 3 showings, and we go thoroughly through the home, looking at all the pros and cons. And then the 5th section, or the 5th part, would be the reveal, where we announce what house is actually the home that the buyer selected. This process of filming is approximately 5 days, about 35 to 40 hours of filming. And once it's all computed, it comes out to be about 26 minutes of airtime. That 26 minutes of airtime, it takes about 4 to 5 months of editing. So there's about a 4-month delay in process from the time of filming to air date.
I know, and when I watch it, I'm always guessing, which one are they going to pick? And I try to figure it out based on little keywords that they might say and different things. And, of course, what the audience doesn't know, and it's revealed out there in Wikipedia, and anytime you want to look up any of these shows, is basically the person has already decided on the house. And then there's 2 others that, so they've already bought the house, and they kind of back into it, basically showing what would happen prior to them buying the house. So there's 2 other listings. Give us a little information on how that comes apart. Also, how do they choose their people locally here? Do you have a hand in who becomes on the show, or do they have people write in want to be on the show? How does that work for House Hunters?
Well, great question. How we handle that is I have a good relationship with Patrick, who's at Pytown Productions. He's one of the major production companies that works directly with HGTV. What they do, unfortunately, is they will not spend money for the taping and the video production if the home hasn't been purchased and closed. So you hit the nail on the head. Wikipedia is correct. It does take place in the manner in which we purchase the home, and after the closing, we contact Pytown Productions, and then they send out from a local venue, whether it be Orlando or Tampa, a film crew, which is pretty much going to be your film guy. You're looking at somebody to do your start and stops and your lighting. Once everything's done and produced, we have to actually go out and find 2 other homes, because we obviously have our subject home that was purchased and we own it. But we do need to contact the real estate community and find 2 other homes that would probably been along the way, or something they may have been interested in. But they may not have actually seen that home, to be honest with you, during the real search when we were out there grinding every day looking for that perfect dream home. These are 2 homes that are found after they've already purchased, and those are basically then put on the show with releases and everything.
Mm-hmm. Has it ever happened? This is what gets me now, knowing this. They've purchased the home. You're now finding 2 homes that they haven't seen. Have they ever thought, gosh, I wish I had seen that house before I'd purchased this one?
I had similar statements. I wouldn't say the word home, but they fell in love with maybe a bathroom or a backyard or a view, but I don't know if they would have given up the whole home for it.
Right.
So when they're walking through on the show, they're walking through 3 homes. You're making comments. Oh, I like this bathroom. Oh, I really don't like the way that sink is laid out or whatnot. Things of that nature. So that's the nature of the comments. One of the 3 homes they're walking through is actually currently their home.
That's
right.
correct.
Okay.
The filming does take place after, so all those comments are really acted comments.
Right.
And there's usually 3 tapes or 3 versions of every scene. So therefore, let's say it's the walk up to the front door. They will set the camera crew in the foyer of the home. As you grab the handle and open, they will be taking 3 takes of you opening the front door. So your verbiage from take 1 may be edited to the filming of tape 3, and it sometimes happens to where you realize that you may have said that at a different moment.
Right. So technically, Jonathan, because I watched the show, this is kind of interesting. You it appears that they have never seen these 3 homes, but in reality, they own one of them.
Living in one of them.
Yes,
Yeah, that's fascinating. But
so it is.
again, that's what
but that's
makes
how most
TV,
of them are set up. I like to watch the American Pickers and things like that, and they always walk up to the door.